So in my Volkswagen Passat V6 estate car here walk around, I had mentioned that we had a high pressure fuel pump issue where the bucket or valve follower had worn out. So I've got the parts today. We're going to put this back in the car and show you what went wrong and how to put it back in. So this is our high pressure fuel pump on the Volkswagen 2-liter turbo FSI, and this was the cam follower or bucket that has completely worn right through. Very common on these engines. On my other Volkswagen, I've checked it, I don't know, 2 or 3 times recently, maybe every second, third oil change. But once it wore through, I think the oil pressure built up in behind here, and it's really dirty on the bottom. I think a bunch of oil was leaking around this seal. So I've got a nice new seal that I have here when we put this new cam follower here on the top. So let's get this put together and in the new car. So even just pulling off this seal on the old one, it was so hard that I ripped right through it with the rubber. So it was definitely brittle and most likely leaking through there. So this is where our high pressure fuel pump sits. So I'm just going to take a little bit of oil and run it around on my O-ring so it slides in real nice. And I put some here on our cam follower. So now we're just going to very carefully insert this in here. Now the most difficult part I had on removing this fuel pump was this banjo bolt fitting that sits right in here on the bottom. I'm going to get the camera in close so you can see it. So the banjo bolt fitting that I struggled with a lot on this early FSI motor is right there. I'm just tapping it. It's that shiny little silver bit right back in there. I've got to go get a M8, I think it's called a triple square banjo bolt back up in there, and then hook up the rest of these fuel line fittings. So this is our banjo bolt here, and gotta get that in there. So this will be fun. So right now I'm just putting this brass fitting back on the bottom of the fuel pump. I removed it for easier access to this banjo bolt that I just put in earlier. It just gave me a little bit more room to get in there with my tools and my hands. If your FSI fuel pump has the rubber fitting with the clamp on it, I doubt you'll have to remove this fitting. You may want to, but it's just one more step that probably isn't necessary. I'm just going to put this back in and slide this nut back up and onto this fuel line onto here. We're getting close to getting this back together. Just trying to make sure that we don't have this nut here cross-threaded when I put it back on. This here is a vacuum, this is a valve, these are some vacuum hoses. One runs the brake. Not sure what all they do, but it's the vacuum system, and this is definitely a one-way little check valve in here. So we just got to be careful that you don't damage these. These fittings are very easy to break off. then about the last job I can think of is just reconnect our connectors here. Make sure that's all good. And down here we have our bleed off, which we have to put back in. Right here, it's got a little, looks like a valve cap off of a tire. So I think those are called Schrader valves. We'll just stick that back in there. So there we have our 2-liter FSI fuel pump back installed with the new bucket or cam follower if you'd like. Really all I have to do is just throw that engine cover back up on top, reconnect our air intake on both sides here, and we're good to try it out. But I got a bunch of other things to do, so I'm leaving that off. I've had my son Jude hanging out in the garage, so if you wonder who was running around the background, that's who it was.